What are we doing?
We are doing our year-end review.
Yeah,
of 2024.
This is the first year end at which we have had a channel for a year.
Yes.
Because last year end we had been going for like a month. There wasn't much to review.
We didn't have a lot.
But now there's a whole year and we've done so
Yes.
much stuff. But before we actually talk about magic, let's eat some bugs.
Yeah.
Because shrimps is bugs.
Shrimps is bugs. Also bananas.
Where are they? Right here. Right here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I brought these up in the last episode because of a Reddit post that you sent me, and I found them. Found them online. Paid $10 for that bag.
Shrimps and bananas.
Yes, apparently this is a British sweet. We're going to try them for the first time. So we might just keep snacking on those. Or I might keep snacking
That
on
is,
this
yes, that is a distinct possibility.
during the video. But yeah, shrimps and bananas.
So, what are we going to do today? We're going to go through each set that came out this year. We're going to give each set a rating out of 10 for world building, for flavor.
Yeah. We're sticking with the Vorthos theme. We're not, we're going to talk about mechanics a little bit in the sense of like how did they resonate with the flavor, not so much like playability or like game mechanic stuff.
Yeah. And we each have a card of the set.
Yes, we have chosen a card that for us is the most of that set.
Yes, the most card.
The most card. We have one for every set. Oh, you know what? I just forgot that Foundations came out in 2024. I will think of a most card by the time we get there.
All right. Well, yeah, and you brought cards for
Yes.
Fallout and Assassin's Creed, and I didn't, so we're just going to...
Yeah, I was like, I got all the way through Duskmorn, and then I just forgot that Foundations...
Through the magic of editing, you will not have to sit while we figure these out, but we might take some extra time.
There may be additional time taken.
And then we'll finally wrap up with just some thoughts on the year from more of our perspective, both our personal journeys with magic and, that sounds more pretentious than I intended, just our personal
just,
experiences with the game this year. And
Yeah, like what has the game meant to us this year? What have we, things we've done with the channel? Because this is, like you said, is the first year, like the full year we've been filming, making content, and doing magic stuff. So
yeah. So, and I think we decided our ratings are going to be at 1 out of 10,
yes.
right?
1 out of 10, 1 being
1 to 10, yeah.
like the least, 10 being the most, I guess, most positive.
Yeah. And usually when we introduce a rating scale, we say, and here's some examples, but I don't think we have any of those yet.
Yeah, not really.
So we're just going to start from here.
It's a 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah. Okay. Murders at Karlov Manor. That's how we started the year.
Yes. I actually had one right before that because I think Ravnica Remastered also came out this year.
Oh, wow. I suppose that's true.
So I did have a Ravnica Remastered pick.
Okay.
For the most card. Yeah, it came out January 12th, 2024, so that was part of this year.
I opened a couple of packs, and I think you and I played like a sealed game that was like, it was kind of chaos with some Ravnica Remastered, but...
Granted, like, my overall experience with Ravnica Remastered was limited, because, like, that was the only play that I got out of it, was, like, that one sealed game with you where we kind of did a chaos thing. Ravnica has been, obviously a super popular plane over the years. It's a lot of people's favorites.
Yeah.
There's so much. They have a really good setup with the guilds there where, like, it's easy. I think a lot of people can, like, find a guild that they resonate with.
Yeah.
And, like, that draws people to it. And it's a cool plane. I mean, there's a lot of neat stuff that happens there. That said, it's not a plane, like, for me, I think my nostalgia plane is Innistrad, where I'm just like, oh, I just love this.
Same,
like,
absolutely.
Ravnica is not that plane for me. I'm like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, it's just not something that I get super hyped about. So when I was looking through the set and trying to pick, what is the most Ravnica of this lineup, I actually went with the anime alt art for Niv Mizzet Perrin, because that just felt right. Yeah, the full art extended art version of this. Yeah, this was my pick for most Ravnica.
That is
just because of
Ravnica.
Just because of his importance on the plane itself, his popularity as a character, and just there's something about this art that I'm like, yeah, this is the most. Yeah. If I had to choose one, this is my pick.
Just as we've been scrolling through here, this isn't nearly as considered an opinion because it's just scrolling through the card set, but Murmuring Mystic is a card that I realize I keep coming back to and just thinking as one of the quintessential arts I love in this game, but it also is the category of thing which I love, which is just creating a bunch of stupid tokens. These ones happen. Yeah, this happens to be flying 1/1s.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't matter. I love just making a bunch of tokens.
No, that's a super cool card, and I love the art for it.
Yeah, that's part of it. It is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not treading new ground though, because it's a remastered set.
Right, and so that was another thing where I was like, okay, I don't really have a lot to say about this because it's a remastered set, so we're kind of just revisiting the same things, you know.
Yeah.
It's I guess what would you call it? It's like a curated version of Ravnica where it's not every card ever.
Yeah. We're about to get one of those for Innistrad in a couple weeks.
Apparently, we're getting that. So lucky us, I guess.
Yeah. I think so. We'll see.
I think so. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
Maybe financially not so lucky for me, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Ravnica Remastered. I didn't really have a number grade for that one because of my limited experience with it, and we're just retreading old ground. So,
but I think it's really convenient that you brought up the sort of setting there, because that ties tremendously into Murders at Karlov Manor, which I thought at the time and decided to withhold my judgment, and now that it's come and gone, feel very much that they should not have set it on Ravnica, which they did.
I don't think so. I don't think it should have been on Ravnica, but it was.
Yep.
I think it would have been more interesting to set it elsewhere.
I think it clearly should have been on New Capenna.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good setting for it.
Because that has such overlap with a lot of murder mysteries.
Yeah.
Like, Agatha Christie is clearly, the premier person who is associated with murder mysteries.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very classical...
Yeah.
You have, like, Murder on the Orient Express and these different... what's another... She's famous for so many different ones.
Yeah, there's a tons of novels that she wrote, tons of plays, which keep getting produced. Just a ton of output in multiple media.
Yeah.
And then there were also TV shows, many years of Poirot produced, Miss Marple.
Oh, yeah.
Just, there's tons of it. And
quite extensive.
She is kind of, her center of gravity is in the early 1900s because of when she was writing.
Yeah.
But we also have Sherlock Holmes, a bit like late Victorian. But all of these associations, I mean, Knives Out came out a few years ago, and that was a big, hot, new murder mystery, but it's predominantly a genre that takes place back then. And New Capenna was just the perfect place for that, especially because it had the problem when it came out of not having any, like, representation of law and order.
Yeah.
Like, if the criminals run everything, what is the meaning of crime?
Yeah.
And they just didn't answer that. So they could have finally given us that. It was perfect. And instead they set it on Ravnica, and we get none to little of the normal Ravnica focus.
Yeah, it was strange. I don't know. I'm not sure why they chose to do that, because I agree. I think it would have been a lot more interesting and more fitting to set it somewhere, like, if not on a totally new plane, I think New Capenna would have been a great plane. Like, it's already existing. You know, we've already got some established culture of what New Capenna is like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, even if they don't really have established law and order, like, it would have been kind of cool to see just how that plane deals with, like, a...
Maybe it's all, like, private eyes.
Yeah.
Literally, like, you just have to hire your own police force.
They had
but let us flesh that out then. That's perfect. Do that world building.
You know, they had, like, the whole detective faction. So, like, that could have easily been, like, these are the private eyes you hire if you want somebody to look into a crime.
Yeah. You mean the faction in
like,
in this set?
Within Murders of Karlov Manor, like, detectives were a type. So, like, that could have easily been like, this is the person you hire if you need to investigate a crime, because there's no overarching body that handles this.
It's not free, but that's fine. That's part of the world building.
That's just what it's like here. But I think for me, overall, I'd probably give this, like, a 6 in terms of, you know, just because I really wish it had been elsewhere.
Yeah.
It felt a little forced for me to have it on Ravnica. There are some cool stuff. Like, I really liked the cases.
Yeah.
So, like, that mechanic was neat. I actually quite liked, I think it was the disguise mechanic where you could, or was it cloak? Where you can, like, play the card
It was
face
most
down.
like there were 3 cloak cards, but they're mostly disguised, where they comes in with ward instead of being just manifested.
Yes, that was fun and interesting.
Yeah. I don't want to be that charitable to it.
Okay.
Because I keep thinking I respect Wizards' desire to try different things, but murder mysteries as a premise do not work in a magical setting, because the main conceit of a murder mystery, the reason they're interesting as an audience member or as a reader, I think, is that the audience sits there trying to figure out who done it. They try and figure out who is the perpetrator.
Yeah.
The whole time. And I think there's a little bit of a intentional mismatch. What we're actually doing is trying to figure out what the author is trying to get us to do, and playing a back and forth game there of, they want me to think this, but I realize they're setting this up. And we're really investigating narrative conventions more than we are the actual clues in the world, because we don't have access to the real world being investigated. All we have is what the investigator characters in that world are relaying to us. But all of that only works because, at least the surface level story, the investigator being uniquely talented at figuring out things by observing things other people miss, only makes sense in a world without magic. Because in a world full of magic, the answer can always be, well, someone used a new spell.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
It was magic.
Yeah. It's...
Yeah. I think that is... Yeah, I think there's some inherent obstacles. It's kind of like... there's a lot of horror movie tropes that don't work in an age where everyone has cell phones. Yeah. And so you have to, like, get around. Like, that's an obstacle you have to get around somehow narratively. Yeah. And yeah, I think in a world where magic is clearly established to be a thing, you would have had to find some way around that, and it would have been more satisfying if it was not, well, it was magic, but that's where it went.
In this case, it was hardly even that. It was just like, oh yeah, this character has another ability we hadn't mentioned previously.
We just hadn't talked about it. Yeah, this is a new thing. So.
Which just seemed kind of like obviously what was going to happen, but I had some hope, but nope. That was just... So I think, honestly, it's like a 3 or a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
All that to say, I sure did like playing it.
It was a lot of fun to play.
The worst magic is still really good to me.
Yeah, I mean, this was not my favorite set of the year by any means, but I did still enjoy playing it. There's a few standout cards that I quite liked a bit. Yeah. What is your most Murder at Karloff Manor card?
I think I have to give it to Crime Novelist.
Okay, is that the little goblin?
Yeah, I'll pull
That's a good one.
And this is one we talked about in one of our...
I remember him.
And honestly, if we had not done a deep dive on things you might have missed, or whatever the topic for that video was, I probably wouldn't appreciate this much, because it doesn't have any of the set mechanics on it.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal art, because as we pointed out in that previous video, this little goblin is writing in a different color and with a different handwriting than the rest of the paper there. So they're like snuck in or finishing someone else's novel. Yes. So it's got goblins being goblins. Crime Novelist is such a nice meta concept for a card in this set. And then you have Fibblethip hiding down below.
Yes.
It's just, there's so many layers to this art. It's just phenomenal. I love it.
This is a really good one. I strongly considered this one for my
really?
most card. What I ended up choosing for my most card was actually Insidious Roots.
That's good too.
This one is it just, there's something about this art that just really sticks with me.
The regular art, I assume?
Yeah, it's the regular one. I love that you can see like the inverted city spires kind of pointing downward. I quite liked the mechanics that worked with here. This is partly a memorable card for me because I got just absolutely massacred with this card a few times in Limited. Yeah. Where someone else had this and just went off. And I had no way to deal with it. But I think it's also a nice tie-in to like what ends up kind of happening in the story, where you just have all of these things that come together with, spoilers, Tristani was involved. If you haven't read that.
Yeah, this is basically the answer to the whole mystery. Yeah. It's right here.
It's this.
And truly, it is interesting. That's not obvious from looking at the card. But it totally is.
This is an artistic representation of that fact. So you just have... I love the thorny vines and how they're just kind of entwined with everything.
Yeah. That is a really good choice.
Yeah, this one sticks with me, so this was my most card.
Yeah, that's good. One more general complaint. When they previewed the whole season, I thought, what's the difference between a murder mystery set and a haunted house set? Because to me, a murder mystery takes place where everyone's stuck together. Murder on the Orient Express, it's on a train.
That's a common
lot
one,
of them, it's in a house. It's usually in a house. And so when
there's
they
a
tell
name
us
for that, it's like a closed door mystery or something, where we know the perpetrator is someone in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that drives the stakes way up because there's a murderer in the room.
Yes.
Right? But it solves lots of problems. But it's also, it
also creates tension because there's the promise that we will get an answer.
Yeah.
When it's just, oh, there was a murder, we may or may not find the perpetrator.
It keeps the stakes high.
Yeah,
then you don't have to come up with an explanation for why the murderer didn't wander off, right? Yeah. I guess is what you're getting at. Yeah. Yeah. So in my mind, before I actually experienced the set, I thought, oh, it's named Murders at Karlov Manor. So I assume the whole thing's going to take place at Karlov Manor.
Like everyone's trapped in the manor,
Which it doesn't.
No. It does not.
Okay. Like, I don't know. And it was interesting, Mark Rosewater was recently mentioning on one of his podcasts that he views the Planet of the Hats problem where they went to this world and just made everyone a detective. They overdid it with making everyone a detective and just detectives everywhere. So they perceive that within Wizard's design too, which is satisfying, I suppose. But I'd really like to hear an acknowledgement of a lot of these other kind of issues with putting this here. I don't know. And then moving on from there.
Yeah, so the next up,
I want to skip over Fallout because I want to segue into Outlaws of Thunder Junction because that was the next premiere set that came out, and it is at the beginning of the season when they announced them all. That's the one I thought was least interesting. I do not like cowboy stuff. I grew up here in Texas. I grew up associating cowboys with bullies. That's just like the association in my head. And I did go through a really brief rodeo phase in like 6th grade, but it was brief.
I also grew up here. I have never had an interest in Western anything. This set was probably, when I saw the lineup, I was the least excited about this.
It seems so stupid.
And this turned out to be my favorite set of the year.
Really? Yeah. You know what? I still think it's stupid, but it's fun stupid.
It is. Like, and, that's what I'll say is, like, this gave me, like, I had so much fun. On exploring this plane and the cards that came out with it, and I was like, this was just an absolute surprise for me to be have as much fun, to be as excited as I was about something that I previously thought would be of zero interest to me at all.
This is the Mel Brooks movie of magic sets.
It kind of is, yeah.
It's like everyone acknowledges this is a great movie maker, but it's super silly, way sillier silly. than things most people usually respect in a genre. But yeah, like this is
in very much a good way.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna give this one, like, I don't know. Now I feel like, am I judging them too generously? I don't know. I think I'm gonna give this one a 9 because, like, this was my favorite set of the year. I had a really good time here.
Okay.
So, yeah, no notes.
I was expecting it to be like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. I think I'm gonna put it as 6.
Yeah, I fully expected to just really dislike this set.
I've got to have room to come up because I like some of the later things more. But yeah, I think it's 6 out of 10, maybe even a 7. Okay, fine, 7 out of 10.
Okay. That's fair.
I'm okay weighting my grids toward the high end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up loving it. I love the silliness of Rakdos. I'm sure that we included this in videos earlier with Rakdos saying, I'm only going to let people ride on my head one more time.
Yes.
Which, like, if they do that too many times, it's going to be hard to take these characters seriously most of the time. I almost need acknowledgement. Yeah, this is like the silly side episode, and it's not meant to be continuity exactly, but... Yeah,
this felt like a filler episode in an anime, but it was a really good time.
Yeah, or like a what if.
A what if scenario, or like... It kind of gave me the feeling of, like, Star Trek Next Generation did a lot of episodes where they were on the holodeck doing something silly.
Like we're going to do some other genre thing.
And it was just like, today we're in a different genre, and that's kind of what this felt like, and it was great.
Yeah, there was even a Sherlock Holmes one.
Yeah, we had
to tie it back, but we don't need it.
Yes, absolutely, there was. I think there were a couple episodes where they explored that.
Yeah.
But this was so much fun. Just like getting to see all these known characters in Western wear. Going on this little heist, which was just surprisingly delightful, despite me fully expecting, just because of my personal biases, to not enjoy this at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it turns out I love Thunder Junction and had a great time there. So my most card, this was really tough because there were a lot of cards that really resonated with me for this one, but I chose Tiny Bones the Pickpocket.
Of course.
Because I love Tiny Bones, but also because this kind of silliness depicted here, like the piano player just like surprised as Tiny Bones runs across the keys, you know, making away with whatever trinkets they've pilfered from people, presumably in the saloon. Just kind of captured for me the overall feeling that I got about the set.
You're right. Oh, that is a good answer. I tried to veer toward commons and uncommons, just because that's kind of what our channel's about to a degree. And I think I picked a common for this one too. And that I considered a few. I really love the Ornery Tumblewag. We talked about a couple other there were a couple of great black cards, but Cactarantula is what I settled on.
That is a really good one, and not just as a spider connoisseur.
I mean, it's partly because of spiders.
Yeah, I'm like, I know I'm biased for spiders.
Is this the only spider? This is the only spider in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which I only know because I just, to find it, typed in give me all the spiders from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It's just this one in Scryfall.
That sounds so good. Yeah. I love this spider.
Yeah.
I have a spider deck. It's green-black, and there's just so many good spiders they keep coming out with.
Yeah.
That I'm running out of space.
And this was bad for Commander because it's so expensive without being...
All of my spiders are bad for Commander. There's like 3 of them that are good in Commander, and the rest of them are terrible, and that's why I use, every time I show people that deck, they're so confused by it, because I have cards like this, and then I've got, Urborg, Cabal Coffers, Vampiric Tutor, Jet...
You gotta make up for the power loss.
I gotta make up for the power loss, but it's I'm tutoring for this. This is what I'm doing.
And you never feel bad about it, right?
No.
This is always awesome.
This is what I wanted.
Yeah.
This is why I made the deck.
I know it's jumping ahead a few sets, but it's kind of the same experience I'm having with Duskmourn and Scarecrows. It's oh no, you're giving good Scarecrows. I don't... Yeah. No, my Reaper King deck is supposed to be all the bad Scarecrows. If you give me good ones, how do I make this decision?
Yes. I love Cactarantula.
But yeah, Cactarantula. There are a lot of, well, not a lot, but there are a number of cactus folk in the set.
Yes.
And, well, this one isn't a cactus folk. They're their own, sentient species. But I like this more than them, and this still captures the cactus stuff everywhere. So in that way, it's kind of embodies the set. It also doesn't... the plot mechanic, I really like that. That was cool.
That was cool.
Mounts, that's pretty cool too. And I'd like to represent those, but I've just got to go with the cactus.
Yeah.
Because this is also a card that I would be happy to first pick in drafts.
It's a 6/5 with reach.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that high pickable at 6 mana in Modern Limited, but the fact that it draws you a card when it gets targeted just kind of alleviates a lot of the problems with that.
And this was a set that was so focused on committing crimes, which was targeting opponents and their stuff.
Yeah.
So, really nice.
So it played well. It references the deserts, so it does reference one of the set mechanics. Yeah. And it's I just love this card.
It's a great card.
All right. So then let's circle back to Fallout because we don't want to bypass it. And it was released between these two sets.
Yes. So Fallout is as a property is something I'm far less familiar with than you are. I played
when you arrived today, I was in the middle.
You were in the middle
of murdering mole miners with my son.
You were actively
in Fallout 76
doing Fallouts.
Yes.
I, on the other hand, I have played one Fallout. I think I played some Fallout 2 on the Xbox 360.
Oh wow, yeah.
Or 3, maybe it was 3.
Okay.
Because it's not the isometric one.
It's 3 or later.
So I was playing Fallout 3. That is my only experience with it. I have not watched the television show.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So very, very limited. Didn't really have a lot of connection to what was coming out with this one. I was just okay, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
That said, I bought the Mothman deck.
Yeah.
And it has become one of my favorite commander decks.
Yeah.
No joke. I play it unsleeved. I have not altered it at all. It
A
is
bunch of our playgroup. I mean, I got that.
Yeah.
I think I forget which one of us started it, but like,
Yeah.
I think I had one. I was not the first person in the group.
Yeah.
Then I got it, and then you were like, "I'm gonna get one too," and you just
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, I like left a game to go.
Like here at my house.
No, we were on spell table because I was at my
Was that
house.
it? Okay,
We were
okay.
doing a spell table game, and I was like, I gotta wrap this up, guys. I gotta go do something, and that's what I went to go do.
And you came back like 30 minutes
Yes.
later, like I just bought them.
You're like, so I just bought this deck. I went to my LGS and bought it. But yeah, it is so much fun, and like just out of the box, very fun to play. Very well built. And I've had such a great time with it. And so like I'm kind of happy with that just being like this is my perception of Fallout. And it's got all these great cards in it, like there's a roach that I really like. The rad roach that's like a little dancing cockroach. It's got the potato farmer. Just a bunch of really fun things. Like, wow, just what a great time. What a great way to experience this property. And now I might end up getting the game soon. So Fallout 76, so I can maybe play with you and your son. I don't know. He probably won't want to play with me, but that's okay.
Hey, Mike. We'll see. So you chose a most.
So yeah, so for me, this is based on my experience because I looked through all of these. Mine is the Wise Mothman.
Okay, I was
that is like kind of the quintessential card for me of this set, and I don't have the background of like knowing who a lot of the named characters are.
Even though I do, I'm also going with the Wise Mothman because I just love it that much.
It's a great card.
It is. It's fun.
It is.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to spend too much time on the supplemental sets, especially the non-in-universe ones. So moving on then?
Yes.
All right.
Up next.
I think that takes us to Modern Horizons 3.
Modern Horizons 3. So this was another one that I didn't spend a great deal of time playing with.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I'm trying to remember. I think we opened... I want to say we went to an LGS draft where we played with like one pack of this and then like some of the Assassin's Creed or something. It was like a mixed sort of chaos thing. So I didn't get to play with this a lot. But I looked at the cards and again, this is another Modern Horizon set, so it's a mixture of new cards with some old reprints. And just looking through everything, I settled on Dreamtide Whale as my card of the set, or my most card. In part because I think this is beautiful art, but also because one of the things that I think about with Modern Horizon sets and these kind of sets is that this gives us the opportunity to play with mechanics that are not typically in standard sets. They're kind of a little more niche, so like vanishing is not something we really see come up often anymore. Proliferation they're pretty sparing with outside of certain contexts. So I like that this has both of those mechanics, but then also just has this really neat like whale jumping out, like breaching the water but then turning into a cloud, which kind of I guess harkens to the vanishing aspect of it, but it's just really beautiful. So I looked through all of these several times, and I just kept coming back to that one and decided that was the most.
Yeah. I considered quite a few, and even in this moment, I'm choosing between two. You know what? I'm just going to mention both. The runner-up then is going to be Shillingar.
Okay.
Just because it's a really cool... commander card, basically,
for sure.
that just creates an interesting way to make angels and demons interact. But Writhing Chrysalis is got to be my most Modern Horizons 3 card because it absolutely defined, and some would say ruined, the limited format. It's a highly relevant card in Pauper now, and it's Eldrazi. So this set, the experience of this coming out and being available to draft on Arena, and then the today availability of Pioneer Masters is really reinforcing to me that I don't like, and I still don't know my own preferences, if it's that I don't like high-powered limited, which I think largely I don't. I don't really like Cube. I like the power level of standard Premier sets, but I also don't like sets that are less thematically unified. Like, we have a Vorthos channel. I'm pretty Vorthos-oriented. I want a setting. I want to spend time in that setting. I don't want a little bit of everything. And this, especially the kind of what if nature of these, because there's certainly not a clear statement that this is all a bunch of canonical stuff.
Yeah.
There seems to be an implication that some of this just definitely didn't happen. Other things, yes, this is clearly illustrations of someone's past. Like, if it was a more rigid, yes, this is cut scenes from other sets, I would be a little more into it. But given that that isn't even there, I don't find the set as a whole to be a really satisfying experience. But I do like having some more Eldrazi, because they can't just throw in Eldrazi very much as a creature type, because there has to be a real compelling reason for them to be in a set. And usually that's because they're the big bad of that exact set, and there's a huge battle going on. And so they only show up like every 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But here is an opportunity to add a few. And I just really like them. They're neat.
They are neat.
And I kind of prefer the truly colorless Eldrazi. Devoid is an interesting little kludge to make it possible to have more design space. But I don't know. Writhing Chrysalis is neat. Having abilities that trigger on cast instead of resolve is neat. But it's also bad. So, like, when I suggested that we do a card of the set rather than a favorite or best or anything, I was thinking in terms of Time's Person of the Year.
Yeah.
Because famously they have, chosen particular war criminals as their Person of the Year because...
I almost picked Nadu. So...
Because the point is, it's the most influential person of the year, the person with the biggest effect, not the most positive effect or anything. And in the same sense, Writhing Chrysalis, I think it is the most Modern Horizons 3 card.
Yeah, that's very valid. I think I kind of took the prompt more in terms of like what is the most to me personally.
Sure. Yeah.
But I did almost choose Nadu for similar reasons, and I was like, no, you got enough press this year. Like, you're good.
Yeah. All right. What about the set as a whole? Where do we give it? On the out of 10
I'm kind
scale?
of with you. Just like, I also don't really enjoy the buffet setting. I kind of like, I don't want a little bit of everything. I would honestly prefer, like, the only time I want that is like if we're intentionally doing like chaos sealed. Yeah. And that's usually that's kind of a few and far between thing. I much prefer like, okay, we're like hanging out on Innistrad right now. This is the flavor. Yeah. So I think for me this is probably more of a 4, like a 4 to 5. It's interesting. Like I think this has kind of just turned into a reprint set for like it's largely just Commander reprints at this point with some considerations for Modern. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you say that, but like it completely upended the Modern meta.
Yeah.
I saw a Reddit post showing how each of the Modern Horizon sets has basically caused an entire rotation. Yeah. They call it a soft rotation. It's more than that. It's completely disruptive.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I've seen things on both sides of that argument of like how much like it definitely has changed the landscape of Modern for better or worse. So it's certainly not something that is I don't want to say that it is not impactful in that way. But it does also seem to be a vehicle for them to get reprints in that otherwise maybe wouldn't have a place in other sets. Yeah.
It's definitely got some good size. I'm delighted they reprint the medallions.
Oh yeah, very happy to see those. Those definitely needed a reprint. Yeah. But yeah, I think overall, the lack of a unifying theme for me is definitely where it's losing some points. Yeah. I personally, I am more of a fan of the kind of thing where they did like, was it Planar Chaos, where they have these like alternate versions of, like we had like blue braids. Like I would like to see things more in like if we're gonna have something like that where it's like, okay, this is not canonical. Yeah. Let's explore some like alternate version of these characters, like a different timeline, different universe, whatever. Where it's like, okay, we're not
lean into it.
Yeah, really lean into it. We're not saying that this is canonical or whatever. It's just like, hey, here's another version of how things might have gone.
We can ship Jason Emrakul.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay. I am gonna give this set a 3.
Okay.
You know, and I kind of was hedging earlier with Murders and was like, 3 or 4. I'm going to definitively make a lineup here that Murders is better than Modern Horizons by virtue of having its own theme and being sticking to it. So that one was a 4. And I'm putting Modern Horizons at a 3 because it has some neat little stuff in there.
It does.
Like, I'd rather have it than not have it, I think, but it is not my favorite.
I'm not mad about it, but it was not my favorite.
Yeah. And then I think Assassin's Creed was after that.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked at that set at all. I did the same draft you did, where we opened a couple of packs along with some Modern Horizons 3 in sort of a semi-chaos draft environment. But
so this is another one that I probably have no business commenting on because I have not played. I've played like one Assassin's Creed game on the PSP.
I played one. I played the American Revolution one, which I think is 3.
It's not a franchise that I've ever really been into. I think they did some neat things with this set. But, you know, none of this stuff, like, I'm very much looking at this from an outsider's point of view, where I'm not seeing familiar characters, or I'm like, oh, this is so cool, they got a card.
Largely, neither am I.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't have an emotional connection to anything here. I do think it was kind of cool that they had the alternate language printings of, like, Leonardo da Vinci in Italian. Like, that was a neat touch. But my card of the set was, it's actually a basic land.
Oh.
So I chose the basic full art island with the pirate ship, or not pirate ship per se, but like that one.
This one, yeah.
Yeah. The full art version of that card is really pretty.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah. Because when we were doing that draft specifically, or I can't remember if it was draft or sealed, but
oh, I see.
I pulled this island and was like, wow.
I had not seen that till just now.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
And like I have that card set aside somewhere because I want to get more of them and put them in a deck. I don't know what deck I would run it in, but it's just so beautiful. And like this is the kind of thing. So like when I look at a Magic card, one of the things that I really want to see is like I want to see things that like draw me into the world, that make me want to learn more about this place. And this is one that makes me, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Like I want to know more about this place. I want to know who these people are. Like I want to check out this ship. I want to go on a little journey here.
Yeah.
I'm like kind of compelled to maybe pick up a game and see what this is all about. Which is all I really want from the game is like to draw me into the world and make me want to learn more about it. And that did that for me.
Nice. All right, so I literally have not seen many of these cards before. Just flicking through, I love Keen-Eyed Raven, but I'm a little bit obsessed with ravens and crows, with corvids. But you know what? If I've got to pick a card of the set, it's going to be the Aesir Escape Valhalla, and it has nothing to do with the flavor of it and everything to do with the fact that my card evaluation skills have improved enough over the years that reading through these as we were doing the draft, I did a double take and thought, this feels a little do nothing for a little bit, but it seems absurdly powerful, so I'm going to take it. And I did, and it was absurdly powerful, and there's a reason this was not a draftable set. That was painfully unfair for me to be able to use against my opponents. It was an I win card. And so I just have really good memories with it.
That is completely valid. What an effect.
Yeah. I don't feel qualified to rate Assassin's Creed out of 10. I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to rate that one. I was like, I barely have any business picking a most card from this set.
Fair enough.
So I will decline to rate
It was one of the sets of the year.
It was.
Bloomborough. This, when they announced the season, was the only set I was interested in at all.
Yeah.
So all of my hopes were in
this.
Here. Yeah. I had very high hopes for this set, and they were met. I know a lot of people found the draft environment to be a little on rails, and that's fair. Like, it is a set that says, hey, there are these 10 creature types, one for each color pair, and if you want to play bunnies, you just get all the green and white cards, and like, yeah, that more or less works.
Yeah.
Not accounting for if it's not open in that particular draft, but that's... There's not much more complexity to it than that.
Yeah, this was one that I think when we initially saw the lineup, I was most excited for this set and Duskmorn.
Yeah.
Those were the two that I was like, I am hyped for this.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with this one. It's got a ton of really cute animals. I think I feel really bad for people who got into Magic during Bloomburrow and then were slammed with Duskmourn right after it.
Like, whoa.
Like, what a whiplash event for you to experience.
That's an interesting...
Yeah. It's very different flavors, but yes, Bloomburrow was a ton of fun. A lot of very memorable cards. And I had a really tough time picking a most card for this one.
Yeah.
My initial pick, just because I felt like I was trying to find something that like really captured the flavor of this set. And so my runner-up, or we'll do my runner-up first.
Okay.
Was Season of the Burrow.
The standard art?
Yeah, the standard art for it. I really like the like textile look of this. And the different thing, you know, it includes the paw print modes, which was a mechanic for this set. It can do a few different, you know, and I love like the depiction of the various calamity beasts in the background, and then like the little creatures that are all cozy in their burrows. And I love modal stuff, so anything that, yeah, I love a modal spell. So very into that. That was my runner-up pick, just because I really liked the flavor of the art and how this kind of ties into the set. But my most card is Blacksmith's Talent.
Yes!
Because of course it is. Because I can't stop talking about this stupid card.
You say, of course it is. You do not like red, generally.
No,
this is
I
not
don't.
your color. So
No, but you know how many times I've talked about this card?
Yeah, okay.
I was like, this is going to be funny when I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've brought this card up a bunch of times, which is interesting and very notable because I don't normally like red.
Yeah.
But this card...
This is great.
This is a good card. I got to play with it a bit. You got to play with it quite a bit. I love the art on it. I just love everything about this. And like, this is another one of those. It's a really good effect. You know, it comes in, you make a sword. Second level, you can just equip target equipment to a creature, and then level 3, you can give an equipped creature double strike and haste, which it turns out is really good.
Yep, that is a thing. This is this has won and lost me lots of games because I played a lot of this set and I enjoyed it, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my pick.
I very much respect that. This pick is what actually allowed me to knock the Rambling Possum out of my contenders for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, because this one is a possum, and this is absolutely my favorite possum in the game so far, of which there are not many, and my favorite card in this set is the Tinder Wild Guide.
Oh, we love that one. I remember talking about that one.
It's absolutely adorable, and that is a quintessential part of this set.
Yes.
It's one of the creatures which is not of one of the supported types, which is an interesting thing they did. There's like one stoat, which I guess is typed as a weasel, the Bright Blade stoat. And there's one skunk. And so there's just, they got the 10 creature types who are going to be most of the set, but they found ways to include quite a few other one-offs. Yeah. And possum, that's great. Thank you for putting possums in the game.
Yes. What a delightful little friend.
And it does everything I want to do in the game. It makes tokens and it ramps. It's so great.
And it includes the offspring mechanic,
yes,
which was a big part of this set.
Yeah. It's just everything.
I love both arts for this card. Like, this one is really good, but the alt art is also great.
It is, and the token art is fantastic. It's just, all of it is just, it's only a pity they didn't make a token alt art.
Yeah.
to go with that one.
The token that goes with this is really cute.
It is.
Oh, the little fishies.
Oh, yeah. I have not even noticed those. The little possum, he's doing a little tongue thing, and that's cute. While he's doing magic, or she's doing magic. Yeah.
It's just delightful.
Yeah.
That's a really good pick.
I have been astounded to hear that some people don't view this as being core magic setting. Some people have made the complaint that there's nothing this year that was, really core magic setting, because it was all Planet of the Hats in one way or another. But to me, Redwall is just it's core fantasy. It absolutely,
that fits fine for me. Like this one, there have definitely been, like, I think I felt that way more about Duskmourn.
Oh, absolutely. I just
like,
didn't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, that was one where like I had. So I love horror content.
Let's
movies,
wrap
books,
up
etc.,
Bloomborough,
yeah.
which all I have to say is 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
This, if there is any set that's going to be a 10, it is this.
I think for me it's an 8.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think for me it's an 8. I loved it. There were a lot of things I loved about it, but it wasn't quite up there. And I guess I don't have any 10s for this one because I already gave Thunder Junction a 9.
Yeah.
So maybe I should bump that to a 10 since that was my favorite. No, nobody gets a 10.
Like most years, I would feel like it's okay for there not to be any 10s.
Yeah.
Even if we go ahead and apply this over a period of time.
Yeah, you know
like
what,
you should
you're
have
right.
you should have a 10 every few years.
Yeah, we should have the opportunity. Yeah, it's like not every year gets a 10. So yeah, Thunder Junction 9. I'm gonna give this one an 8. Overall, great set. Loved it. Had a really good time playing with it. I think my favorite mechanic was gifting a tapped fish. And that time that I got to absolutely annihilate you with a fish you gave me that I then put a bunch of +1 counters on.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I warned you that I was like, you're gonna regret giving me this fish.
I think it's also telling that Wizards views this as knew this was going to be a success because Foundations has a number of cards which are set in Bloomborough, like clearly and obviously. They don't have any cards in Foundations set in Duskmourn.
Yeah.
Or Thunder Junction, so. Okay, but then as you were saying about Duskmourn being more pushing the envelope.
Yeah, so I was like I mentioned when we first saw the lineup, I was excited about Bloomborough, I was excited about Duskmourn, not much else.
Yeah.
Duskmourn, I had kind of mixed feelings about as it got closer because I love the idea. I love haunted houses, spooky stuff, scary movies, all of the above. I felt a little weird about it being in Magic, though, because like we've had spooky Magic sets before. But this one is much more like 80s, 90s nostalgia spooky.
And the spooky sets being we have Innistrad for classic horror,
which is like classic gothic horror,
and then Phyrexia is like sci-fi horror.
We have Phyrexia that's like more like sci-fi horror, like Geiger-esque.
Yeah.
Like,
So
body
what
horror
else are you
stuff.
gonna do?
And so it was like haunted house is a thing, but as we got closer to it and started seeing more spoilers and stuff, it's like this is very clearly set in like 80s, 90s nostalgia era.
Yeah.
Which is where a lot of great horror content comes from.
Yeah.
But I started to feel a little weird about that. And I think I mentioned this in a video that I think part of what made me feel weird about it is I have never played in a Magic we've never had a Magic setting that took place in a fictionalized version of a time I lived through.
Yeah.
And that felt weird. And like that's when I finally put my finger on it. I was like, why do I feel some type of way about this? And it was like, I think that's it. It was like seeing, I mentioned that, when Netflix put Mac and Me on Mystery Science Theater, that was a movie that I used to beg my dad to rent at the video store.
Yeah.
And seeing that come up on the Mystery Science Theater lineup was a weird experience. So
I think a lot of people might not be familiar with that movie at all.
They might not.
I don't think I have seen it.
You probably
but I know what it is.
You probably haven't. It's basically an E.T. ripoff.
Right.
But I was obsessed with that movie, and like once a week we would go to the video store, and like I used our video rental on that like multiple times.
But it wasn't like a B movie that no one had ever heard of. Like its time has passed, but people knew what it was at the time.
At the time, like it definitely was. It's not super niche, but it's also not surprising that you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like that was one of those things where like I used up our video rental multiple times on that movie. Because I would get to pick like one movie, and I was like, Mac and Me. Because videotapes were expensive, because you're probably like, why didn't you just buy it? And it was like, well, because it was costly. So anyway. Yeah,
that was insane. When I went, this is really off topic, but when I was a kid, like in the late 80s, when we went to the video rental place, and you could rent a lot more things than you could buy. They would not release all movies for sale. Only like the biggest movies would be sold for home video to buy. Yeah. If you lost one from the rental store, the replacement charge was like $100.
Yeah, it was like stupid expensive.
In the 80s, pre all the inflation we've had. So this was like the equivalent of $200 to replace a copy of a movie.
It was extremely costly.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want to lose this videotape. Yeah. Or screw it up somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I settled on as far as like, why does this set make me feel some kind of way? And there's a lot of elements about it I liked. I think overall, despite expecting to really like this set, this was kind of the opposite Thunder Junction experience for me, where a lot of this fell flat. There are some things that I really enjoyed and had a lot of fun with, but it's also, like, I had so much indecision about this set that I ordered and then canceled the Nightmare box like 2 or 3 different times. I never ended up I finally ended up canceling on it and settling on that decision, but I just kept going back and forth. And that said, there are a lot of things I liked. I know we complained quite a bit about the rooms and how those were executed, like rooms versus corridors or something else.
Yeah.
But like, there was also a little bit of a disconnect in here in like what kind of spooky we were doing, because like we had the aliens,
Boo!
we had the jump scare.
I'm gonna have put that up on the screen.
You better. You know, we had like the what are they called? The ones that come up out of the basement and the spooky.
The cellar spawn.
The cellar spawn. Right? So we had this kind of mix of like monsters. There's a little bit of body horror. We've got these, like, nightmarish, you know, there's a lot of nods to classic horror, like there's the Children in the Corn, the Unsettling Twins, which clearly reference The Shining, and there's a lot of self-aware stuff, like the Unwanted Remake, you know, that kind of thing. But ultimately, I will say I did have some good times with this set. I didn't hate it, it just, I think maybe my expectations were too high when I saw what it was, and then that just slowly came down in different ways. I love Enduring Tenacity, just because it has a snake on it.
Yeah.
But my most card of this set is going to be the Cursed Windbreaker, because I think that captures, like, the stupidness of some of this, but also, like, there is an element of fun to it.
Yeah.
And when I stopped, I was able to reach a point with this where I was like, you know what, it doesn't matter. It's dumb. Because initially when I saw this Windbreaker, I was mad about it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what, it's stupid, but
it's like Outlaws, right?
Yeah, it's stupid in a different direction, where it's like, I could equip this to Jin Gataxius, and that'd be pretty funny.
A few years ago gets pants, now it gets a windbreaker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good.
So that's what my pick is.
What did I end up going with? Okay. Yeah, I considered one of the fears, and I think those would be very defensible because they are just such a quintessential part of the environment.
Yeah.
Surveillance and Burning Alive, the ones I considered Turn Inside Out, because it's cool that it tells a story within the card.
Yeah.
But I settled on Osseous Stick Twister. And I alluded earlier to having a Reaper King commander deck, which I do, and this card is now in. So I was excited to see there are some new Scarecrows.
Yeah.
That's great. But it was the overlap of that and knowing that there are other Reaper King players out there. The art really doing a cool thing with the setting, these lamps. It's the spooky lamps, which are just kind of part of the environment, which is... It's part of the ridiculousness of the set that there's one demon who's made an entire plane a haunted house. I mean, on one hand, come on, but on the other hand, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, I like there's a part of the landscape that just has these creepy lamps.
Yeah,
I love them.
This set has this weird thing for me where it's, like, simultaneously silly and also, like, okay, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, it just keeps
like,
going.
Thunder Junction just did the silly part.
It just did the silly.
Duskmourn is kind of the mix of the silly and cool. And I love this Scarecrow design and the story behind them. How they are humans who kind of get trapped and kind of converted into Wicker Man references.
Yeah, that's pretty. This is like one of the coolest arts in the set, I think. It's very visually striking.
And this one was just a powerhouse in draft. And I mentioned before, this is the first set I ever made Mythic on Arena drafting. It is the set that I drafted nearly 100 times, which is more than twice any other set I've ever drafted. So I loved drafting it, and that's a pretty common opinion among drafters. I think this is a beloved draft environment. It was just so phenomenal, which really raised my opinion on the whole set, probably above what it would be otherwise. So, and last thing about Osseous Stick Twister, also has Delirium, so it is representative of the set in one of the headline mechanics. And of course, Delirium is a callback to, I think, Eldritch Moon, like was where that came from, and I love that set too. And so that's just makes me love this card all the more. But I think if I had not loved the draft environment, I'd be calling this like a 6 or a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like, I didn't do nearly as many drafts as you did. I'm gonna call this a 6 personally.
You know, I think if I can distance the joy of drafting the set, which it's a separate thing.
I mean, that's part of your
I can say
experience
no. I can say this is like a 10 out of 10 drafting environment, but from a Vorthos perspective, I think I agree. It's like a 6.
Yeah.
It's got some cool stuff. They did a far better job than I expected them to be able to do, than they had any right to be able to do. And that's the theme of the year. Like, none of these things should have worked, except Bloomburrow. That should have worked. But, like, the cowboys, the detectives, and all this relatively modern horror, this should not fit in a Magic setting. But they didn't do a half-bad job of, like, selling their own takes on all of these things. So, yeah. Amazing work from the Wizards, creative team. I think they're setting weird goals for themselves, but they're doing quite well at accomplishing them.
Yeah, they're doing stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know, if I was in their position and my options were between do a bunch more core fantasy stuff, but somehow make it new and interesting and different every time, maybe that would be an impossible task too. That's almost certainly what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a very valid point that, there's, I think you have, for one thing, you're never going to please everybody. And, like, as big as Magic has become, we definitely have the players who are like, no, I really just want to stay in the core fantasy realm. We have players that are like, I like seeing all these new things. I want to see Spider-Man on cards. That's my favorite part of the game. And so finding a balance between that and also trying to come up with something new. Yeah. Like, how many different ways can you reframe core fantasy where it feels new and interesting?
Yeah.
Versus, so, like, I am glad that they're exploring different stuff.
Yeah.
I think, and I expect that I'm not always going to be excited about those things, but...
we're already having that experience with Ether Drift,
right?
We
sure
like,
are.
we saw the preview for next year, and once again, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But, and particularly Ether Drift, that stupid set symbol. I hate the set symbol.
I hate the checkered flag so much, and I'm trying not to let it completely color my
I know. But
perceptions.
Then the Planeswalkers guys release, and we start looking at all the individual teams, and like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, they're on track to sell me on this thing that I did not think I was going to be into once again.
Yeah, because I was like racing. I was like, this is like Magic meets pod racing. Like, I don't think this is for me. And then I saw the checkered flag symbol, and I was just like, I hate that.
But then you saw insect cars.
But then I saw insect cars, and I was like, actually... Maybe, what? I'll hear you out. Like,
yeah. But before, we're not even going to get into looking at next year.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Because I imagine we've probably already gone around an hour, and that was this is
we have
supposed
already
to be,
exceeded.
Once again, like a half-hour concept turns into a. But the last set of the year, Foundations, is absolutely the return to the core fantasy setting, and it is in a large way, it's the same as Modern Horizons 3. It's a hodgepodge. It's a buffet of a bunch of different Magic settings. But it feels considerably more cohesive to me. I mean, we're looking at the card file, and the very first thing here is a big Eldrazi.
Yeah, there's a big Eldrazi.
But I think it might be the only one in this set.
Yeah, this is, again, they got a little bit of everything. But it does have it has a different vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out how to describe, like, why does this feel different from Modern Horizons? I think maybe mechanically it's more united. I think,
despite power level not presumably being, 100% correlated with flavor, I think it kind of is. Because in a Modern Horizons set, everything has to be big and huge. Yeah. And here you have... It feels like there's space for small things. And there's certainly space for simpler designs.
What is your most card pick from this one?
We actually just passed it, and it is, we as co-black aficionados, it is a black card. It's on the page now. Do you want to guess which one it is?
Was it the Gourmand?
It sure was.
Vampire Gourmand? Okay.
And that's not just because that was our first Magic Words card either. It is. We did a whole video on the typal themes in this set, and it feels like they've really tried to put vampires front and center in a way they haven't been in the past. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there have been a one of the 5 supported types in Innistrad sets multiple times. That's true. But here in a core set where the colors, where the creature types tend to be associated with one color, we just have, here's black vampires, and this is a set oriented toward new players. And instead of making zombies the most front and center creature type, though they are pretty well supported, it's vampires. They're right here. And the Gourmand in particular does just a great job of encompassing what an individual vampire can be mechanically. It sacrifices something for profit, for value, for another card. And wow, that's just a fantastic single card design. And it kind of says, hey, this is what vampires do. They consume things. And obviously, once you start exploring what else vampires do, it's more varied than that. But I just thought that was a great... And it's Innistrad. It's an Innistrad vampire.
It's very clearly... Like, I love that they have visually made the various vampires so easy to recognize. Like, we can tell when they're from Innistrad, when they're from what's the other place they're from?
Zendikar.
Yeah. And like, that's really saying something, because like, even on Innistrad, each vampire clan has kind of their own distinctive style, but there's still a look.
It is phenomenal. And like goblins, like we're going past a Sear Slicer goblin, you know where that's from, right? Just by looking.
I need to zoom in. Do I? Oh, he's from Kamigawa.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's got the pointy. He's an Aki, right?
Yeah, he's one of those. They've done a really nice job of kind of distinguishing.
And like Ixalan has the blue monkey goblins, and some of them are a little less distinguished from plane to plane, but overall, Magic over the years has done a phenomenal job of creating different visual identities for these races in different places.
They really have, which is quite nice. Picking not a favorite, but a most card for this set. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like, I'm looking through the card file right now. Yeah. And there's a few.
It is like a 700 card set.
There's so many. There's just so many. I think we talked about it at some point, or maybe we were just talking about it in a private conversation, but mine's going to be the Spinner of Souls. Yeah. I love the Spider Spirit so much. And I love what it does. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you can flip cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card, and it just goes into your hand. And the art's really good. And I'm not sure if this is really the most card for this set, but it's the most for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely valid.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I think it has a cool alt art too.
Yeah, a lot of these do. I didn't realize how wildly successful the collector boosters for this set were.
You were telling me
I got
they're
one
like
early on.
Impossible to find now.
Yeah,
or they're very expensive.
They're like doubled their market value. It's wild. It's weird for a set that's going to be out for like 5 years. That's the one that sold out of the collector boosters immediately.
Yeah.
So that's the sets for the year.
Yeah.
There was so much.
There really was. There was so many cards that came out this year. It was kind of hard to keep up.
Yeah, I've realized I used to be a person who wanted to keep up with everything that came out in a year, but I'm long past the point of accepting deep in my soul that not every set is for you, because I can't.
Yeah, it's like, I think doing, what we've, like, having the channel has really heightened that awareness too, because we'll be playing, we'll go to events and stuff, and then realize like, oh, spoiler season for this is just like a week or two away. Like, are we gonna do something related to that or not? Do we care about this set?
Having made decisions.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice segue, because let's just talk a little bit about the experience of making the channel over this year.
Yeah. So we've had the channel for just a little over a year now. I think we initially dropped our first video sometime in early December of 2023.
I think that's right. And there was middle of Caverns of Ixalan.
Yes.
Or, I don't know if it was the middle of, but that was the first few videos we did were about that. They were 10-minute videos, and that's what I thought we were going to be doing.
Yeah. Just some real short
indefinitely.
Form content.
Yep. Yeah. 5 to 10 minutes. I couldn't imagine.
You didn't know we were going to make feature-length films about fallen empires?
That's the other thing. I had mapped out, okay, these are the types of videos. Like, I was really into doing the same formats Like, I wanted to do a Who Wore It Better
Yeah.
for every set, at least once, and possibly multiple per set for the different art treatments. And I think we've done like 2.
Yeah, we kind of got away from that, but I think we've kind of moved toward something that's quite fun and interesting, where we've done some really deep dives on some things. Like Fallen Empires has been our ongoing project.
Yep.
In 6.1 parts.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, it's been really fun to, create this stuff and focus on things that we already talk about. Because that's kind of how this got started, is us having conversations about these things, and was like, we should record this.
Yeah. We were going into great depth over is it the Old Tech Cloud Guard? Which I think we made a short of.
Yeah, we made a short about that one.
But that's basically, I think it was that conversation that made me think we should actually do
like, no, we should really do this. Yeah. So it's been quite a fun experience. Yeah, what a year.
Yeah. I've personally been through this cycle of starting to care about the YouTube metrics.
Yeah.
Which is a very bad thing when this is not something we are trying to monetize. I don't want to say we are absolutely never going to monetize it, because
but like, that's not our...
if we find a way to make this our jobs in 3 years, great.
That'd be great.
But
also
thus far it has explicitly been a creative outlet for us.
This is a creative outlet. This is a hobby. This is a thing we do for fun.
Yeah.
We don't make money off of it.
Yeah. And my great frustration with it has just been, I want to say more about this thing before we move on collectively to the next thing. And so every set we don't get to talk about nearly as much as I want to.
Yeah, there's just not enough time between sets before they kind of become like algorithmically obsolete.
Yep.
Except when we're like, no, we're just gonna go do something that's 30 years old.
Which is a different thing. I think
which is a whole different thing.
We've fallen into the pattern of about half of our time is dedicated to kind of old passion projects or surveys of something that's agnostic to a particular set. Yeah. It's the orbs episode and that kind of thing.
We have other things. The art of counter spells.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And what do lands represent? So some just these bigger picture questions. And those are fun too.
They're not set specific.
But I think my hope and intent going forward into this next year is to maintain that balance of a half and half. So we're doing about half looking at the current set. And
which
half on other topics.
Which I think is very relevant to kind of how we interact with the game.
Yeah.
In that, we do enjoy going to do limited events.
Yeah.
Of what's coming out now.
Yeah.
But we do also very much enjoy playing with older cards.
Yeah.
So it is kind of 50-50 in terms of we're excited about new stuff, but we're also really excited about old stuff.
Yeah, this is very representative of who we are as people.
Yes.
And what we're into.
Yeah, it's been quite fun. I'm trying to think if there's been any... I mean, I think, we've been to... We went to 2 Magic Cons this year. You went to Gen Con as well.
Yeah.
And we did have had a couple milestone experiences, like getting recognized at the convention.
Yes,
you got recognized
so cool.
by someone.
Thank you.
We haven't really gotten any, extra fame beyond that, but I'm always just delighted to see how many subscribers we have, that there are people out there that are interested in the stuff we're making.
Yeah.
Because we're just doing this for fun. So
and thank you for the comments, the corrections when we get things wrong, the back and forth, the shared experiences. This is all delightful.
Yes, it is. This has been something I've been really proud of this year as well. Going over every December, so I get kind of it's right before my birthday and the new year, so I get this kind of retrospective mindset of what have I done this year? What do I want to do different next year? Did I accomplish my goals? And this was something that I was very proud of this year. Yeah,
me too. This has been a creative outlet in a way that I didn't expect it to be, in terms of learning to do video editing and just this entire process. Because in the past, typically I write music individually. I play with my band, and I've done a lot of live theater stuff, and there's been less opportunity to do live theater as I've had young kids, which is that they're growing up, and so I'll be able to shift to more out of the house stuff. But I have lacked the amount of creative outlet that I would like, and this has been really filling that role, and it's been really fun. Yeah. So I feel really great about this channel and what it has meant in my life over this past year. So thanks for doing it with
Yeah,
me.
thank you for. We would not be able to do this without your video editing skills.
Whee! You could just do it yourself. You'd pick it up in a week.
I don't know. I very much enjoy making the thumbnails and all of our stupid graphics. That has been just such a delight.
Yeah.
I was so proud of Emrakul's Vacation, which was one of the thumbnails we made this year. I put it on a sweatshirt. So
Speaking of the YouTube metrics thing, it has been an absolute
Yes.
baffling experience trying to figure out what things are going to perform well and
It
which
has.
won't. And that's, like I said, we're not monetizing at all. So this is really a matter of, creative fulfillment and ego.
well, there's a little
But
bit of that.
but there are some things like, I think this is hilarious. People are
Yeah.
gonna love this, and it just like gets 10 views, and then something else gets
so
1,000, and I'm
awkward.
so baffled as to why. But we're just gonna keep trying to make entertaining things to entertain each other and
Yeah.
you, and see how
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah, I think most of what we make is with the intention to entertain ourselves, and we really hope that other people find it entertaining too. So hopefully you continue to find us entertaining in 2025. We'll have to edit this for,
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's
for
fine.
boredom.
We're on it right here. All right.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I brought these up in the last episode because of a Reddit post that you sent me, and I found them. Found them online. Paid $10 for that bag.
Shrimps and bananas.
Yes, apparently this is a British sweet. We're going to try them for the first time.
Yep,
They're
yep.
texturally very interesting. Like, I was feeling them, and they're a lot harder than I thought they would be.
They look very squishy. They look
Yeah.
like what I think of as Easter
Yeah.
candies that are super
Like marshmallowy texture.
spongy,
Yeah,
yeah.
so like, this is what they look like. It sure does look like a little shrimp. We can put it, yeah. There it is.
And here's a banana.
Yep. And it looks like the ratio of shrimps to bananas in this bag, it seems fairly even.
Yeah. I'm gonna try
So-
banana first.
All right,
You
I'm gonna try the
first?
shrimp.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Gosh. Chalky?
It's so interesting. It's like a dehydrated marshmallow, kind of.
It is.
It's like chalky, but also soft.
Okay,
in a
so now I'm
weird
gonna
way.
try a shrimp and see if it's
Yeah.
any different.
I cannot explain
Shrimp. Oh no, the
the
levies.
taste. It's just like sweet.
It doesn't want to do the light level. We'll find a product.
I don't know how to explain the way this tastes. It's just like sweetness. It doesn't really have a... Like, I thought it would taste like something other than sugar.
I had a psychosomatic moment where it's like, oh no, this is shrimpy. It really wasn't.
Yeah, it just kind of tastes sweet. And now I'm going to try
It
the
doesn't.
banana.
It doesn't taste identical to me, but I could just be crazy, or just
It doesn't taste what?
identical.
Identical? Okay, I'm going to try the banana and see if that's different.
It certainly doesn't taste like banana.
Yeah.
And the shrimp doesn't taste remotely like shrimp.
This one is slightly different.
Yeah, but like
Also,
in
like,
the same
it's-
way, like how do you describe this? It's chalky candy.
It's chalky, it's sweet.
I say chalky, and I just mean it's like a texture thing. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a nasty flavor.
Yeah, it's chalky and like in a sweet tarts kind of way, like texturally,
Yeah, it's not tart in the least.
but it's not sour. It's very interesting.
Yep, that there is some sugar in a slightly different shape than
Yeah.
most of our sugar.
Yeah, so it says that it has beef gelatin, beetroot juice, and other flavorings. So
The beef gelatin is a flavoring?
I guess.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe that's just like a texture thing.
A mouthfeel thing.
It's probably mouthfeel. I'm gonna eat another one.
That's a good sign.
It might just be because of how much I paid for this bag, but I'm like,
How much do you pay for it? It says
so
1.15 pounds.
I did not pay this because I had to get someone to import it. So I bought this for $5 from a
Okay.
candy store online, and I paid them $5 to ship it to me. So a total of
Wow.
$10 to get this.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's not worth that, but like it might be worth it. That wants to try it.
I mean, it's a fun experience.
Yeah.
So now we've tried shrimps and banana. You know, they're kind of growing on me.
Yeah, they're not bad.
They're not
They're just-
bad.
they're not
it's just
great.
different.
Yeah.
Also, I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So
All right.
totally clean slate. So we might just keep snacking on those. I might keep snacking
That
on
is, yes, that is a distinct possibility.
during the video. But yeah, shrimps and bananas.